I, without any setup, want to talk about all of the reasons that the Max Pack is a good idea and a need and a want, or any of the above. Ready, set, go.
Well, so Scott, you mentioned to us that you reserved a Max Pack. So let's start there. What are the reasons that you were interested in a Max Pack?
Well, I actually almost accidentally reserved two different trucks. I'm only taking one, but one of them was the Max Pack, and one of them is the Large Pack. And I wasn't aware at the time. I actually originally ordered an R1S and then switched it to a Max Pack. But I wasn't aware at the time that I could just switch the configuration. So I stuck with two for now. And the Max Pack, in fact, the 400-mile range was one of the first things that caught my attention about Rivian in the first place, because there's something magical about that number 400. To me, it just changes the equation a lot, and I think mainly because I mentioned I grew up in spent a lot of time in southern Utah. I live in Denver. From here to southern Utah is about a 10 to 12-hour drive. And there are stretches of drive in between some of the cities there that are over 100 miles with literally nothing in between them. Now, if it's cold and I'm pulling a trailer, it is conceivable that I will run out of range with a 300-mile pack.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I grant that that's maybe an edge case scenario because I'm not usually going to go there in the winter. But at the same time, I've been caught in snowstorms before that I didn't know were coming. And, I don't know how much range hit we're going to get with trailers and so on. We have a little bit of that information now, but still, I don't have a firsthand account of that. So to me, that extra 10,000 for the Max Pack is worth the peace of mind to have that extra range, because that will change the equation for those specific sections of that particular drive. And the other thing is that living in a cold climate like Denver, and I drive a Volkswagen e-Golf, and I'm not kidding, my range is cut in half on cold days. And that's a bad thing when you only have 90 miles in the first place. Mm-hmm. So I can't even drive out to the airport and back in a cold wintry day, because if anybody who's been to Denver knows, the airport is practically in Kansas. So I can't go there and back with that car. I have to use my Prius, which I don't like to use because I prefer the other one. But having that extra bit of range matters to me. Yet the jury's still out. Like I don't know how much I can get with a 300, like how far I can get with a 300-mile range. And frankly, I'll take the first truck that comes to me, even if it's not the 400.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you mentioned coal as being one of the big reasons why 400 really becomes super important. I do want to say that tune into another one. We're going to take a deeper dive. When I say tune into another one, to the next segment, go ahead and subscribe, because we are going to come back and do a little bit of speculation based on a post that was shared over here on Rivian Stories with some cold weather reporting from like in the field. But I want to stay on topic right now with other reasons why a Max Pack 400-mile range would be the way to go. Cold was big. Long stretches with nothing in there is big. Your use case, you mentioned a trailer. If there's certain use cases where you're going to be going X amount of miles every day for your commute or your work or your fun or whatever, 100%.
So there's another good one that some people brought up, and it's that these are adventure vehicles.
Yep.
And what they plan to do with them is drive out into remote places where there may be absolutely zero charging, and be out there for days. Potentially want to use the camp kitchen, and who knows, maybe climate control for camping inside the vehicle. You never know. Mm-hmm. But extended periods off grid and a good ways away from charging infrastructure, it's more than just road trips to a lot of people. So that's another very valid use case, especially considering the type of vehicle and the adventure type market that Rivian's going after.
Yep, that's a great point. I'm gonna kick one off here. This idea that like 314, but that's 100% charge in perfect conditions. And if we're only charging up to 80%, and then you have wheels and you have unperfect conditions, so like the idea of like, can you really count on 314 miles or 300 miles being your thing? And so I still want to see the range hit, the actual range hit we're going to get on 20-inch versus, you know, the 22. All the information we have right now is that the 20-inch Ultra Range will be a 10 to 15% range reduction, according to the Rivian website. There's some of us who think that maybe that's playing it safe, and hopefully the real world range will be less, but who knows? So I went ahead and did some math at like 314 20-inch ATs, like go right in the middle at 12%, you know, 12.5% range reduction. That takes us down to about 275 rounding. And then if we're only going to charge up to 80%, which I realize that we can charge to 100%, I'm just thinking for people that are looking at a day-to-day use case of range. So we're at 275, then 80% of that, if we're only going to charge up to 80%, is down to 221, right? And then we have things like weather and cold and wind and all that kind of stuff. So if there's this use case out there where if you drive a lot for work, or you have 3 kids like I do and it's full-time taxi service, then maybe you do get through 200 miles. Man, that extra 100 is perhaps absolutely what the doctor's ordering here. So that's one thing there. Anything else as far as like reasons why 400 would be the way to go?
I wanted to point out one important thing here is that I want to know more information about efficiency. Like I want to see more people giving me measurements like, okay, when I'm going up this grade of a hill, my efficiency goes to this. When I'm pulling this heavy of a weight of a trailer, my efficiency goes to this. And when it's this cold, my efficiency goes to this. Because then I can do the calculations myself, right? Because that's one of the beauties of electric vehicles is that, you know, they're pretty predictable. Like you know how far you're going to be able to go. You can calculate that a lot better than you can with a gas vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Hopefully we will see more of that. I want to see more of it too, but we haven't seen much, right, guys?
Yeah. We haven't. I mean, most of it's been anecdotal and online. I have seen people say that with the 20s on highway road trips going, you know, 70 to 75, that they can get 270 miles on all-purpose mode and up to 290 in conserve mode, which I think is pretty interesting. But then, you know, we've got anecdotal evidence, and that is a bigger issue. I hope from a technology perspective that Rivian has open APIs or ways that other people can get to the data and potentially analyze it and or present it in different ways. Mm-hmm. And I see Jimmy smirking over there.
Yeah, we all know someone.
Thanks, buddy.
I would say if you live in Montana, northern Idaho, eastern Washington, North Dakota, parts of South Dakota, parts of northern Wyoming, that you're out in the middle of nowhere, maybe, because I mean, if you look at PlugShare and you look currently at Electrify America's roadmap where they're currently at, I mean, there are large chunks of the North Midwest and the Pacific Northwest that are not touched currently in those areas. Again, I mean, if you're only traveling within a certain area or certain radius of your home, 95% of your charging is going to be done at the house anyway, so that doesn't matter. But if you are getting out and doing those drives and getting out and being adventurous, 400 miles is your Huckleberry, you know, like do it, you know, especially if you can afford the $10,000 bump, make it happen. By all means. I mean, yeah.
Yep. All right, I think those are all good points. If we want to loop back around another one, we can edit it in. But I do want to spend our last little bit of our time together talking about efficiency, that word that Scott brought up. But in particular, instead of hills and inclines and all that kind of stuff, wind even, in particular with cold weather. All right, guys, thanks for watching. This is to be continued, so please do subscribe so you don't miss the next one. In the meantime, please do join us over at rivianstories.com. This really is a phenomenal community. It's the community for true Rivian fans and owners. You'll find a ton of great interaction and information, and you can even pick yourself up a t-shirt or sweatshirt. Thanks.